Network. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and as always, leave a comment, and thank you for enjoying the video.
Shot to right, slicing toward the pesky pole, down the line, and it's going to be out of here! Line down the right field line toward the pesky pole, leaping up, and that ball is gone! That's a home run! A lot of our Nesson team as well. High fly down the right field line, headed toward the pesky pole. That one tucked in, and that ball is going to be against the wall and into second base. Number retired, and now Rafael Devers trying to retire that baseball inside the pesky pole.
Welcome to another episode of the Pesky Podcast. I'm your host, the Ritt. With me, like always, is the OG, Mr. George Sutherland, who's also our head writer here at BSEN. And with me is, well, we've got a little guest. We've got Patrick. We got PB. He is from our Kings of Causeway, who covers our Bruins. But he's here to talk a little Sox with us. So first off, PB, man, congratulations. You guys have been doing really well over there since you went live on the Kings of Causeway. I love me some Chowd. Gotta love that segment. So.
Yeah. No, appreciate you guys for having me on. Absolutely diehard Bruins fan, but to be perfectly honest, the Red Sox are probably, like most, I think, New Englanders, the first love. It's the sport you could play when you're the youngest. So with my dad, I was playing baseball before I was playing hockey or playing football or anything like that. So the Red Sox have always had a really special part of my sports fandom and my sports love. So I'm really excited to talk as we're 10 days from opening day?
I think 11. 10 or 11. It's got to be
11. I think they open on the 28th,
yeah.
right?
So. All right, 28th.
Yeah.
So just a week and a half away from the boys of summer coming back.
Can't wait. But man, let's sit there and ease right into our first topic. We had something a little bit different happen yesterday, and I hope that this kind of sticks with MLB. Man, it was a spring breakout game. And we got to see a lot of our young future stars, front and center, no pressure. They had Marcelo Meyer kind of leading the way, kind of being the captain, being the face of it. And man, it was kind of exciting. It was kind of exciting for us Red Sox fans getting to watch it and getting to look over there and, seeing it. The Braves kind of, didn't do quite as well. But George, let's start off with you. Let's break down and what you thought overall about the game.
Yeah, first, I think this is a great opportunity for Major League Baseball to promote the young players. I mean, in Boston, we know what our farm system has, and we always talk up players and things like that. But I think it's fun for the fans to take a look at, see what's coming down the line, in different organizations. Yesterday, yeah, if you weren't paying attention, Ceddanne Rafaela didn't belong in the game yesterday, and yet he launches a home run and makes a great double play in the outfield. On the run, stops, pivots, and guns it in and gets the guy who was, good Lord, 2/3 of the way down to third base. What he was doing there, I have no idea, but he made the play. It was good to see good defense get played. Good hitting. The pitching was pretty good as well. It was really fun to watch. And for me, it was like watching a couple of games up at Hadlock this past summer. So,
yeah, George. We're gonna play real quick the play that you were talking about from Rafaela.
Taken off again. Little flare toward left center. Rafaela coming on. He'll run it down. He's going to flip it back towards second and in time for the double play. He made that look awfully smooth.
Got to that ball easy. And really, this is the athlete in him, right? He gets this ball pretty easily.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like the infield, the shortstop, right? Being able to throw on the run like you would maybe on a ball in a hole. But you're right in the money. Great play.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't get to see that too often at all. Like, especially last couple of years with center field for us since, JBJ. And I'm not going to compare him to JBJ at all, because Ceddanne Rafaela is his own person. But just the know-how to be able to get to the ball, catch it, and then throw it over to the shortstop to get the out, that's something that we miss. And, we need those defensive plays to get our pitchers this season out of jams. And because last year they were able to keep extending the inning, and that hurt us a lot. 1, 2, 3, all the way up to like 10 more pitches, and it kills your pitcher because he's thinking, I should be sitting on a bench already. Our guys should be up to bat, and it just didn't happen last year. So some great plays like that this year could go a long way. So
he covers it. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead, George.
No, he covers a tremendous amount of ground. Okay, and as they commented on the play, you saw the turn. I mean, my God, he just went out and stabbed it. The runner was practically to the cut at third base, had to turn around fast, and he just whipped it right in. Go ahead, PB. I'm sorry I cut you off.
Yeah, PB, what did you think about yesterday's? Pretty much, it's a futures game almost.
Yeah, I loved it. I love we've talked about this on the rundowns and a lot on the Causeway Pod. But Boston sports fans are there's maybe like 4 fan bases that are even close in terms of our. We know the guys that are in AA Portland. We know the guys that are in Worcester. We know the guys, like, we're very in tune with our prospects and what's coming up. But talking with just general baseball fans that, maybe they're a D-backs fan, or maybe they're, whatever. Like they don't necessarily dive into as much depth as we do. When I was briefly living in Atlanta, talking to people from Atlanta, your prospects are like, who? And I knew more about their guys than they did. So I think this is a really great opportunity for the MLB as a whole to kind of showcase these new guys. In general, it's going to bring a little more buzz, bring a little more attention around baseball at a time of the year where you're really starting to like, hey, let's pick it up again. This is a long season. It's, so I think anything you can kind of do to drive, more eyeballs, more interest, new things with this, to your point, it's kind of like a futures game. This is who's coming and who to get excited about. And now somebody might see a play like this one and be like, wow, I can't wait for this guy to go, oh, who's standing in his way? Oh, it's this, and this. Oh, okay. And the more knowledgeable fans I think we can get across not just the Boston fan base, but across, fans in general, the more knowledgeable everybody is, the better the discourse is, the better the conversations are, the more interesting each game kind of becomes, at least in my eyes.
Yeah. And like we all know Marcelo Meyer. We all know, we've seen Ceddanne Rafaela, but some people might not know or got to see the Roman Anthonys, the Kyle Teals, the Welcome Gonzalez.
Yep.
Miguel Bleis was injured most of last year. So, we're relying a lot on him to be a big piece moving forward coming up. So when you don't get to see those ones, then you get a game like this, and it's like, man, okay, we get to see what our, like Pat said, we get to see who is playing and what do they got to do, or who's blocking them to, make the MLB roster. Look at outfield. We got Ceddanne Rafaela that played in the game, Roman Anthony, Miguel Bleis. They're all outfielders. So who's on the major league roster, that's stopping them? Well, we got Jarren Duran, we got Abreu, we got Tyler O'Neill, and we got Yoshida. I still don't count Ref Snyder because I'm not sold on him. He's already going to start the season, it looks like, on the IL. So that might open up a spot for a Ceddanne Rafaela overall. So, George, of the more known but the lesser seen players yesterday. Who really surprised you the most?
Tough to say surprised because I have seen him play before. Is Mydroth. You saw that play that he made in the first inning, snagged that ball, and then they joked about it afterwards. The play where it tips off his glove and Meyer makes the play in the hole and throws him out. People are going to be surprised at just how solid a player he is. And he's had to move around because I think he came up as a second baseman. So, they've got him moving around, and he can play all four spots in the infield, but they've got to settle him in over at third. I think that's going to be the big surprise. And he showed, he's got good stuff over there. So he's somebody to keep an eye on. I was excited to see Miguel Blas yesterday as well because he did get hurt, and I can't wait for him to come up north.
Yeah, PB, who was your part of the lesser seen but very well known here in Boston?
So I know, Marcelo Meyer gets the attention. He's kind of had the spotlight on him for a while, but our number 2 prospect in that farm system, Roman Anthony, he's a guy that you like what you're seeing when you watch him because he looks calm, composed, and ready to, step in and out of the roster maybe this year, maybe over the next couple of years, not be an unfamiliar piece of the 40-man roster. Maybe he gets some at-bats, some game time. Maybe, he doesn't, just is around the clubhouse and learns what it means to be a professional baseball player in Boston. But he's checking all the boxes that you want to see from your number 2 prospect in the farm system. The other thing just really quick that occurred to me about these prospect games, how often middle of the season trade deadline's coming up and included in the trade for a established MLB, roster ready guy is prospect A, B, and C, and whatever. And for the most part, you don't really know anything about them going into it. So it's tough to kind of feel like, all right, is this considered a good trade for us? Could it be a bad trade? Is that a prospect I don't want to see in conversations about moving out? Is that not somebody I want bringing in? The more these guys are able to kind of put game tape together, and I know that, a lot of the AAA games, they get, broadcast or recorded, and you can go dig and find them. The more we can kind of make these young guys more front and center, talked about a little bit more, I really think it's going to do a good job of helping myself and everybody else kind of understand when guys are on the move, who it actually was. And it's not just like, oh, he was down in Portland, so it doesn't matter. False. That could be a very huge piece, that really does matter. I know they're not at the roster level yet, but that is a big thing. So I think the more, again, it goes back to that knowledgeable and educated fan and fan base, I think is only good for baseball and the discourse and discussions around baseball.
Yeah. You sit there and brought up Roman Anthony, 19-year-old kid, and he is mature, Yesterday in the game, he had 2 at-bats. He had 2 walks. He scored a run. His pitch selection, you're going to have to really confuse him because his baseball IQ seems to be well above, an average 19-year-old kid. And it shows when he's getting walk after walk after walk. And, it's crazy how, mature and how just ready, for the game. He's smooth all the way up, low A, high A, and ended in double A. He's probably going to start in double A again, but I think he may be there for a cup of coffee and before he's up in triple A this year.
Yep.
So a guy I want to bring up that I was really impressed with, and this is a lot of people's, on a big market scene, was Kyle Teal. So we're gonna play a little highlight from yesterday of him getting a single, and
that's going to be ripped into right field and keep on rolling. Drake to try and cut it. Mydroth is in to score. Anthony to third and diving into second. Teal and drives in the run to make it 2-0.
That's impressive. Hear a lot about the bat-to-ball skill for Kyle Teal. Offensively, kind of really makes you start thinking about that everyday catcher from the left side.
You know, and that is from a great position that it's hard. It's hard for us to sit there and get overall. And with Kyle Teal, it's really crazy how, you know, he's kind of like shuffled on and moved up along with everybody else into those talks of he's the future. You know, we have went and talked to many players, and each and every one of them all say the exact same thing, that he is just as much of a leader behind the plate in the clubhouse as he is a great hitter. George?
Yeah, he's demonstrated that. I mean, he's a college player, all right, come out of Virginia, and he just came into the professional baseball like being shot out of a cannon, and he has it. You know, he one of the reasons he quickly blew through the system was he has skills that belonged at higher levels, and you know, he's another one. I think he starts in Double-A, but you know, by Memorial Day or soon afterwards, he and Anthony are probably in Worcester. So yeah, he's great. And you saw what he did in that pitch, and that thing was buried low and inside, and he just went out there and hooked it right down the line and quickly. So that shows you the kind of bat skills he has. And on top of that, he's a good defensive player. So yeah, I mean, what hard not to like that.
Pete?
Yeah, you know, he's as far as catching prospects go, great one to kind of have in the chamber there. You know, that tends to be one of those positions that when you've got your guy, he's your guy for a really long time, and that's not unique to Boston's, you know, having Varitek, but you look at the Posadas, you look at, you know, Posey, you know, these guys, when you have a catcher, because that relationship to the pitcher is so important, he doesn't really go anywhere. And so it's almost, you'd rather them be better defensively and you know, relationship wise with the pitchers than hitting. If you get a catcher that is mature, has the skill sets to manage a game and can hit, that's where you start trending into the, okay, this is a guy to put an asterisk by, is like, he's going to be in the show, and he's going to stay in the show for a long time, you know, hopefully until, you know, his knees finally give out, you know, whenever, you know, long way down the road. But he's one of those guys that has that elite level toolkit at a premium position that, in my opinion, kind of gets overlooked from a position standpoint. The value of a catcher, I don't think is thought of as highly as it should be. Everyone loves the shortstop. Everyone loves the high flying, you know, center fielder, something like that. Catcher is really where you build everything from, you know, back front, and it starts with the catcher. So he's a prospect that, yeah, I hope spends, you know, a little bit of time in Portland and then is up in Worcester and can start being, you know, only a train ride away from a call up when, you know, if the right situation presents itself. Because I do think that he has that skill set sooner rather than later to make a real impact.
Yeah, your comment about Posey is spot on. You know, you get somebody on both sides, on both ends of play, offensively and defensively. And given the way that the Sox have, you know, made a point to make sure that they improve their defense, all right, he's got that. I mean, you know, I've seen he threw out a couple of runners in the minors last year, and you just love the quick release, and the throw is spot on the bag. So, you know, that's the kind of thing that you look forward to. And, you know, and from all accounts, from some of the stuff we talked to the guys that we talked to last year in Portland, you know, they'll like throwing to him too. So, yeah, you know, that's key. And, you know, he's good. You know, he has to mature a little bit, but, you know, he's shown he's got the makeup, and, you know, will be a leader inside the clubhouse as well. So good stuff.
Yeah. You know, if you look at who we have now in the league, you know, look at Baltimore with Rushman. And then you look at their farm system, and they had the number one catcher in their farm system too. It's like, wait, what? Like, catcher is something that gets overlooked way too much, that, it needs to be put to the forefront. You look at, you brought in Buster Posey, Yadier Molina, you got those catchers that are team leaders that will stay there for years. We had Veritek for so long, and now he's able to bring up these young catchers, give them advice and stuff like that. And I think Kyle Teal will be, a key corner piece. And I think that our future in the infield, just alone, looks really, really good on paper. So let's switch up to the pitching side. We didn't really get to see, I was talking to George about this a little bit, we really didn't get to see a lot of our, bullpen, in this game. They only threw out 3 pitchers, Wilkerman Gonzalez, our man Dickie Fitz, and then Guerrero. So who impressed you the most out of those 3, going into the game yesterday? Was George?
Having seen the other 2, I had not seen Fitz because he came over as part of the Verdugo trade. I was really impressed with the way that Fitz kind of squared things away after he got into a little bit of trouble. That's a good sign. He was AA pitcher of the year last year for the Yankees. He joked about it when they did the interview afterwards. The fact that he's glad he's not having to face these guys anymore. But yeah, he showed something. I didn't know what to expect. He had good numbers and everything, but he got into a little trouble. He got out, pitched solid. Gonzalez, I've seen him before. He sometimes has control problems, but he's straightened it out, and then will blow something past you at 97, 98. And Guerrero, my God, I mean, talk about a heavy arm. My goodness, he hit 99, 100. And, again, not perfectly on, but, you can see the potential there. But, yeah, absolutely fits. I thought I was very impressed, and got a chance to see him for the first time.
Yeah, Pat?
So I was impressed by the strides made by Wilkes to George's point, has a little bit of a control inconsistency streak. But he throws gas. And one of the things that I was interested to see is whether or not he would actively work to try and coach the control issues out of his game, while understanding, hey, I've got the gas, I've got the arm. Yes, I could probably get by blowing guys away at this level, but that's not going to fly in the major leagues for the type of gas he's throwing. And for every one Aroldis Chapman who's successful at control issues out for days, but when you can throw 101 to 103, like, you can kind of get by. But for every one of those that works, there's 10 that don't. And in my opinion, it's not a viable career strategy to just say, well, maybe I'll have some control issues, but if I can just burn the ball through the glove, it'll all shake itself out. So I was encouraged to see that it does look like he's all right. I've got the gas. Now let's work. Let's put in the work, understand that I can still polish this diamond of skills that I have. I'm not ready yet to walk on and take on the world. I can receive that coaching and then go and actually execute it successfully. Coachability in baseball, I think, is huge. And especially at this age and development level, where this is one of the last times coaches can really kind of get in there and instill new habits that you're going to then take on to the big leagues. So I was really encouraged by that. Your boy Fitzy looks good, flat out. Like he looks good. Got himself in a little bit of trouble. Got himself out of a little bit of trouble, and He looks good. So all three of the guys, I think, it was one game. It was a small sample size, but encouraging to say the least when you consider that our late inning arms are really kind of where we got into trouble last year.
Yeah, I like Wilkerman Gonzalez, a lot, but I also like Dickie Fitz just because he's shown, okay, I can get myself in trouble, even though that's something you don't want going out there, and seeing. But he was able to get himself out of trouble too, and he was able to do that. He went and got 3 Ks yesterday, and he relied on his defense, which is something that, last year, if I was on the mound, I'd be a little skeptical too, to be able to turn around and see, people, can you, looking at shortstop with Kike, throwing those wild stuff. So I was really, really happy with Fitz. And, I was listening to ITM podcast with Steve and Joey, and, maybe we got the better end of the deal, because it sounds like Verdugo is, up to his old stuff there in New York. And during the game, the commentator said that, Verdugo is kind of got some issues already over there. So maybe AC knew exactly, and that's why he was, happy to get rid of him, even though last year defensively he was our best defensive player on the plus minus on the runs.
Yeah, I think clubhouse culture is a big part of what Alex Cora has been trying to build and create. If you look back at the 08 team, these were teams that were very close knit, would lay it all on the line for one another. Would everybody kind of had that trust and belief that the guy next to them was responsible and trustworthy to do everything they possibly could to make the team, the organization better. Whether that was, hey, making the team better today means I don't take the field today. It is not a good pitching match. It is not, and everybody kind of knew, hey, if I'm being asked to do this, it's for the betterment of the team, and I'm not going to throw a fit. I'm not going to sulk. I'm not going to turn up late for the next 2 games, in protest or whatever the hell, that might mean, and so I do think it's one of those. Alex Cora identified early, hey, might not be the type of value add in the locker room that I want it to be. And it's also one of those, when you're at that level, at that age and that level, if you've got an issue like that, it's not going away. We never hear the guys that at 27 or 26 was a problem, and then at 27 they're not a problem anymore. If they're still a problem by that age, that just is who they are. Some cultures, that could be an okay thing if if that's the type of team you're okay with building, and bring in the egos and whatever. Not saying you can't be successful at that. Not saying you can't be a good baseball player with that. It just, I think, was the antithesis of what AC was trying to build here in Boston. And so as a result, it was like, hey, let me go, sell high. To your point, it was one of the brighter spots last year defensively. Sell high. And honestly, if you're Alex Verdugo, possibly the worst place you could have gone is New York. I mean, these guys don't even let you have any facial. They don't let you have any fun. And this is a guy that he reminds me a lot of like a Brazilian soccer star. They're flashy, showboaty. They have fun. They dye their hair crazy colors. They tattoo their and all that. You can't do that in pinstripes. Never have been able to. Probably never will be able to. I think it was a terrible fit for him. And I think it's without question that the Sox are going to look at it not only now, but 5 years from now as the big winners out of that trade.
Yeah, everything that you said kind of made me picture, in the 90s and with Dennis Rodman.
Yep.
And, MJ went to Phil Jackson and he goes, we need somebody. This guy can rebound. We don't need him to score. We need defense. We need, and he asked Bill, can you coach him? Can you control him? You know what I mean? And he was able to, from the stories you hear, be able to not really control him, but at least contain him, because Rodman still, was out all night drinking, and then, went to practice, went to games and stuff like that. But when that whistle blew and it was tip off, Rodman gave you 110%. The flashy stuff outside, the dyeing the hair, the nails, the everything, that was off the court. He gave you what he was paid to do and be the best defensive rebounder, offensive rebounder in the NBA at the time. So, with your point you mentioned with that, I was just like, man, that sounds exactly what, the culture. Can you, if somebody has a problem or, has attitude, can you coach them enough to, when they're on the field, do what's on the field? When they're off the field, it's different. And I don't think AC could do it, because I don't think in the long run Verdugo respected him, and I don't think he respects the game of baseball as much as he should.
Yeah, and it's one of those, when Michael Jordan is telling you, hey, I don't care what you're doing over there or outside of the whistles. I don't care. Like, I'm the best player to ever play this game. You're going to lock in for those 48 minutes when it matters, as opposed to this Red Sox team and quite frankly, this Yankees team that doesn't have a 5-time champion that knows that can talk and be like, hey, buddy, button it up. We're not doing that. I mean, he was a glorified, leader on this Red Sox team last year, surely because, almost because we didn't have anybody else. We'd gotten rid of Mookie and Xander and these guys that had won. Sale was a non-factor last year, not even around the team much of the time. Like, nobody that had won anything were a part of that locker or that clubhouse to be like, hey, that's not how we win championships. So yeah, he was probably looking around and it's like, what, you're going to tell me? You're going to tell, what have you won? I might not have won, but you haven't won anything either. Like, whatever. Rafa, you were a nobody in 2018, pretty much. Like, whatever. So it wasn't that personality. I think to be successful needs a Michael Jordan, a guy that's won it a lot and knows what it takes to rein it in. Because to your point, I don't think he respects anybody else. I don't think he thinks anybody can do or tell him how to play his game or do something different. And if you're not coachable, unless you're the best player in the league at the time, you've got to be coachable, or else you're a liability, in my opinion.
Exactly. So let's change up a little bit here. Let's talk about who can possibly get one of the key bench spots, and we're going to break it down a little bit with Bobby Dahlbeck, little Throbby D, and CJ Crone. So George, I'll let you start. And let's talk about who do you see getting a bench spot out of those two?
I love Bobby. Gives you some versatility, first, third, and right field. But the Red Sox have demonstrated time and time again that they're going to hold on to him, in case of emergency, break glass. They brought in Crone. I think Crone makes the team. He can't play. I believe he can play some third, but I mean, he's come up as a first baseman. He's good defensively. Will get you the right-handed bat that you need. Whether it's DH spot or giving Casas a day off so he can DH and get off his feet a little bit. But yeah, I as much as I'd like to see Bobby open in at Fenway, unfortunately, I don't think it's happened. I think he's on double secret probation. So,
Pat?
Yeah, unfortunately, I got to agree. it doesn't strike me as the kind of move you make if you're not kind of putting your eggs in that basket. I think, Bobby's had some really big highlights. The issue has always been kind of consistency, and when he slumps, they're brutally bad. And I just think my worry and my rationale behind thinking Crone takes that spot is he's built up. He's built everybody, coaching staff, fans up so many times only to take our knees out too many times. And if he's only going to be a role player, you kind of need to know what you're getting from that role player. It doesn't have to be, a world beater of a role player. There's a reason he's a role guy, a glue guy, and not, the starting first baseman. But if it's tougher, I think, as a manager to manage an entire team and think 4 or 5 games ahead when it's like, well, he could go 0 for 4 for 5 straight games, or he could be 4 for 4 for 2 straight games. What am I going to get? How is it going to go? And, so I think from a consistency standpoint, Crone might have a lower ceiling, but I think he has a more predictable floor. And that predictability in a numbers game, as analytical as baseball has become, I think you roll with predictability over wild highs or rocky lows.
Okay. Well, I've got to actually stand up for Bobby D, I guess. And I'm looking at it this way. Okay. Before CJ Crone was signed and played his first game for the Red Sox in spring training, Bobby Dahlbeck was 0 for 10. Horrible slump. Since they signed him, he's hit 3 home runs. I'm going to bring up the stats here. Let me bring up the stats. He's batting .314 now. He's had 3 home runs, 9 RBIs. He's had a double. The only bad part I see is he struck out 12 times, but those 12 strikeouts were during his 0 for 10 stretch. So that there he's improved on at the plate. CJ Crone has only played in 4 games. He's had 9 at bats. He's batting .222. He's had 1 walk. He hasn't struck out. I honestly think now, of course, George, you sit there and say that they want to keep him, down in AAA. And I think they're messing with his mind so much right now that I think Breslow's like, this kid's got talent, but if he has nothing to play for, maybe we're not going to get the max ability out of him. So they go and sign CJ Crone, which if he doesn't make the 40-man roster or doesn't make the MLB roster, he has an option to leave. So, or he can stay down in AAA. So I sit there and see possibly Bobby Dahlbeck showed this as my spot's not guaranteed. Well, let me buckle down, let's play a little bit. And then since then has improved his batting average to .314. He's had 3 home runs, and since then he's been on the upslide to where he wants that spot. He wants, he deserves that spot. And CJ Crone, he can stay in AAA if he likes. If not, he can always go for another contract out there at any point in time and, just leave the Red Sox. So I really think, and add to that, Refsnyder with his toe. Bobby Dahlbeck can play a little outfield. He might not be the best option, but he might be able to get you to go by a little bit. CJ Crone, he's stuck at, as far as I know, first base and DH. And you already said that you already have a DH. It's going to be Yoshida most of the time, unless someone else needs a day off, and then he goes to the outfield. So I really think Bobby Dahlbeck, we will be seeing Throbby D on the bench for opening day. George?
I don't see that putting him on the bench isn't going to do any good. Okay. I mean, you said when he plays every day and he straightens it out, okay, and he did in Worcester. Yes, it's AAA, but he played every day. He's on a mission to prove himself. He can put up numbers. All right. They need to find another Kyle Schwarber to get in his ears to keep him focused like he was, in 21. But just no, I see your point, but there's, I think, perhaps upstairs, they've kind of like blackballed him a little bit, and we've talked about this a couple of times. Trade him, let him go someplace where he can play every day. Two likely candidates now are the A's and the White Sox. So, both teams going absolutely nowhere. So, yeah, I want to see him get a chance. Let him play every day. He's been he's played the good soldier. I don't think they're doing right by the kid. So,
yeah, he's definitely a player that needs that kind of consistency. And the fact of the matter is, there's just not a spot for him. You're taking Casas over him every time. And then in the outfield, as we just mentioned, we've kind of got a logjam there too, and a lot of exciting prospects that are kind of pushing for those outfield spots that you don't want to, Bobby. It's unfortunate because I think he's a nice guy, but as a guy that needs consistency to develop consistency, I just don't think he's going to have it at the MLB level with the Red Sox. So yeah, maybe sending him to a team that there's not quite as much expectations or on him or on the team, kind of that pressure comes off a little bit, might do really well for his long-term career future if he goes to a, White Sox, goes to, the A's and is able to play 140 out of 162. If he's able to get that, I think for himself, he can kind of showcase who he really is. Cause he had that chance when he was really young with this Red Sox team, and he wasn't ready yet.
Yep.
It was an unfortunate kind of circumstance that he got thrust into. And the fact of the matter is he wasn't able to grab that, I'm sure, is the way he would have wanted to. I don't think any ball player goes out there and is like, well, I'm perfectly fine being inconsistent and possibly just known as a mediocre guy. Nobody's looking for that. I think it was a little too early. I don't think we had a choice but to play him, but I think it was too early. And now I think that, to your point, this organization looks at him as too risky to plug in that spot. And now he's in my eyes the third guy out, of this rotation. So I think, to your point, do right by the kid. He has been a good soldier. He hasn't blasted the team in the media. He hasn't done any of that garbage that he could have done. Send him somewhere where he can go play a lot, get back to having fun. And, it might be one of those, man, good to see Bobby D doing well out there. Maybe he becomes the one all-star on a really bad A's team or something like that.
In some ways, he reminds me of a name that'll Red Sox fans will remember, that's now, playing for the Giants, is Mike Yastrzemski. He got caught in the crossfire with Baltimore, and a change of scenery did him good, and he became a productive, everyday player. And I can see that in his future. He just needs a break. Okay, and the maturity thing comes, and some guys, sometimes, 20, what is he, 29 now, right? I think so.
28, 29, something like that.
So, maybe the switches are coming on, and maybe he has a good 5-6 year career, like I just said, out in Oakland /
So it's just not going to be, he's not going to,
just won't be here because too much is, on the balance, you have a fan base that's restless as all get out. They can't deal with the upsets, okay, and the frustration of watching him. I think too much was promised. In the COVID season, he came up and launched 7 or 8 bombs. Everybody was like, "Oh, okay, look what we got here." well, he kind of read his press clippings, and then he had a good 21 season, but there were too many holes in his game and his swing. So I think the maturity thing, I send him someplace where he can play, and whatever happens, if he blossoms into a good player, hey, good for him. Thank you very much.
Okay, George, you know me and my hot takes, so I'm going to have to say it right now. I will go on the record to guarantee Bobby Dahlbeck will be in the dugout opening day, Seattle, March 28th.
All right, somebody clip this because we're going to play it back. I remember a certain other prediction about a player that was going to get traded that it took a few days for it to happen, but
Hey, it happened.
It happened. It did. Just took a couple of days. All right,
that was the Juan Soto. So, but okay. Last but not least, on our topics, before we start to cover George's, which I think we're going to start doing every Sunday, guys. We're going to break down George's column a little bit to give him some more recognition for the time and effort he puts in. But let's sit there and talk about our last rotation spot, possibly 2 rotation spots since Giolito's out. So I'm pretty sure the whole consensus will be possibly the same. But today, Alex Cora stated that Winkowski will be going back to the bullpen. Even though at the beginning of spring training, he said that they were going to try to stretch him out. But they're now going to be putting him in the bullpen where he was a valuable piece last year, possibly a 7th inning person. So that leaves our rotation as of now at 247. It will be Bayo, Pivetta, Cutter Crawford, and we have possibly 1 or 2 options. I've heard Criswell, I've heard Houck, I've heard Whitlock. Dickie Fitz's name was thrown out there for a little bit, so are we all going to say, and we have to kind of give the chance to Houck and Whitlock for the spring training that they've put together? Let's start with you, George.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did touch on it this morning before AC got up and kind of said, yeah, George, you're right. But yeah.
Well, he got up, had his cup of coffee.
No, I mean, let's face it. Based on performance, Whitlock has done it. I mean, you saw him. If you saw him the other night, he was terrific. He went out there, did his business. Went in, usual stoic on the mound, won't crack a smile, but he's that super focused guy. Winkowski. They talked a little bit on the broadcast today against the Yankees that his slider wasn't working for him. He was good in the bullpen. I mean, he went from being a starter going anywhere from 25 to 30 games to being a bullpen where he pitched 61 games last year. And, he was good late. He's a good setup man. And he was particularly good against lefties. So yeah, he's in the pen. Doesn't hurt you at all. It actually makes the pen a lot deeper and better. So
yeah, I think it's got to be Houck and Whitlock. Whitlock was somebody I was really high on. Obviously, last year from an injury perspective, didn't go the way he would have wanted it to. But I think that is a very, very consistent, very, very good young pitcher that is a deserved starter. And as high as I am on Whitlock, I'm even higher on Tanner Houck. I think he's got that dog in him, if you will. Like he's a guy that he does not think a single batter he goes up against is better than him or can hit him. And that kind of arrogance is, I think, incredibly vital to a pitcher that's, if the pitcher views himself as a day 4, or maybe I'm, just happy to be here, that's who he's going to be. If you want to be an ace and have multiple aces on the same staff, which I do think is a possibility. I think Bayo is an heir apparent to that ace mantle. I think Houck and maybe even Whitlock, but Houck specifically can be that, guy where, in a couple of seasons, people are looking at the Red Sox rotation as, oh my God, they've got 3 of these guys. I don't want to face any of them. Like, can we please just get a series where, a Cutter Crawford or a Nick Pivetta or, insert whoever there. I just want to play, face those guys because we have no chance against any of these other guys. Because the other thing is these guys are all young, and so I think the vote of confidence from AC early is huge for Whitlock and Houck. I understand the need and the want for a little bit of that competition early on, but as soon as you're comfortable with having a winner, or in this case, 2 winners of that rotation competition, call it. Don't drag this on until the last day, because then everybody's wondering every day, is it me? Is it not me? It's just as easy to push somebody to the bullpen in May or June if they don't have it. We can do that. But I think giving these 10 days for the rotation knows what the rotation is going to look like, barring injury. Go out there and pitch, boys. Go out there, find that rhythm, try this, listen to coach on that. I think it dials everybody in. And to your point, the World Series has not been won by a team that didn't have a dominant bullpen in recent years. That is hugely important. That guy that can go 2 innings is vital. And that I think is what Winnie can do. And I think he's been around the game long enough to know that this is a valuable piece. He's not, somebody who's going to have his ego all that bent out of shape over this. I think he handles this with grace and goes in there and says, fine, then I'm going to be the best long reliever in the game because I should be a starter. But that means you better be able to pitch 2 or 3 innings every couple of days out in the bullpen. You show me you can do that, injury happens, then we can have the starter conversation. But I think he's that perfect guy to go a couple of innings, has the stuff to be a starter, and just happens to be in the bullpen right now because it makes sense for that overall roster construction that we were alluding to earlier, with how important it is for everybody to just buy in, trust in the coach and in the organization that they're doing the right things from a construction standpoint, and just go out there and play for the guy next to you, not necessarily for yourself.
Okay, quick question before we head over to George's article then. Say AC announces that the rotation is Bayo, Pivetta, Cutter Crawford, Houck, and Whitlock. Okay? And he gives the whole speech during the press conference how Houck and Whitlock earned it, they deserve it, and then 3 or 4 days later say they signed Jordan Montgomery. What kind of mental game would it be then with, okay, now which one's going to the bullpen, Houck or Whitlock? Because you already told them that they both deserved it. Or would you be okay to push it to a 6-man rotation? George, let's start with you.
6-man rotations don't work. I'm sorry. It's something that a couple of teams have tried. I don't think they work. I think the makeup of both Houck and Whitlock would be, hey, listen, if we're bringing in Jordan Montgomery or somebody like that, okay, if I've got to go down, all right, and take my, go back to the bullpen, are we making the team better? Yes, fine. I think they're both those kind of guys. They're stand-up, team-first kind of guys. If I had to put some money on it, my guess would be Whitlock goes to the pen. He's demonstrated he dominates down there. Okay. And then you talk about a really strong bullpen.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, two guys in, Winkowski and Whitlock that can give you two bullet innings and say, yeah, hit this. And then, throw Martin Jansen at the end, whoever, 2 older guys who could probably use a rest. But, you talk about a strong bullpen. Yeah, you got it then.
Mm-hmm.
I won't call it an embarrassment or riches, but it's a good problem to have.
Yeah,
So,
and Whitlock's got that experience in the pen. He knows what it takes to watch the game for 6-7 innings, then warm up again, and then get in there in a leverage situation. He knows what that's like. And like we were saying earlier, I think the mentality around the bullpen, as it's thought about, has shifted so much. It's not you're not good enough to be a starter anymore. It truly, there are guys that are making their entire careers off of, I'm going to throw unhittable juice for 2 innings. And that's going to be my wheelhouse. Now, I'm not saying that Whitlock is doing that or wants to be that guy, but he's proven that in small, in short windows, he can be absolutely dominant. And then you look at the flip side, it's not going to be a hard discussion if it's Jordan Montgomery walking through the door. It's that's Jordan Montgomery. I get it. Nobody's gonna, you're not, if you were bringing in, Joe Nobody, and that was Alex Cora's agent's kid or something like that, like, oh, he's the new guy, I promise, he's really good. Like, yeah, then you have like hey, hang on a minute. But when it's Jordan Montgomery, it's like, okay. Invariably what I'll do, and I cannot believe I'm blanking on it. So if you guys remember who it was that was a part of this, every year before opening day, I go back and I watch the hour-long or that 2-hour-long 04 season review.
Yeah, was it just 30 days of October or something like that?
That's the 30 for 30. I watch that multiple times a year, but I do like the whole where it covers the whole season of 04, of 7, of 13, and of 18. And there was one in that 04 one, right when Nomar gets traded.
Is it that one?
Faith Rewarded.
Yeah,
yep. Dennis Leary, I think, narrates it. It's great. But the Nomar trade happens, and as they're covering it, one of the pieces that ended up being huge for us, and I cannot believe I'm blanking on him, walks in and goes, "Oh, I really hope I didn't just get traded for Nomar Garciaparra. Like, there's no way, it's not a that situation. If you're bringing Jordan Montgomery in, everybody understands Jordan Montgomery just walks through the door and a spot is his. That's not a knock on anybody's caliber. He knocks somebody out of every rotation in the league. He can go to the best pitching staff as it's currently constructed right now, and he's still knocking the number 5 guy out of there, in my opinion. So, I think it would be Whitlock that goes to the pen. I don't think he has a problem with it, and I think it's an embarrassment of riches having Winnie and Witty, as your dominant bullpen guys, standing in front of Kenley Jansen, who maybe then gets back to what we know he can be.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I just wanted to throw that out there, because Whitlock and Houck are both really putting in the work this spring. And, I'm going to say it like I always do. Houckamania is running wild and Whitlock's in. So, but George, let's talk about your article. And speaking of walking through the door, we got DC here.
Hey, man.
Yo, what up?
So,
do you hear me?
We're gonna be breaking down George's article that came out this Sunday. I kind of want to do this segment, every Sunday that George puts out, because a lot of work goes in here at BSEN, and George does a lot of behind the scene. Anytime you're on our YouTube at BSEN 617 and you watch a 2024 preview video for the Red Sox of different players, the Celtics trade deadline, that's George right there, taking time out of his life, taking time out of his day, writing those articles for you to hear. And I'm so glad that nowadays we use our AI to do the narrative, that we don't have to do them ourselves. So, George, go over a little bit about your article today, and we're going to go around and, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things I want to talk about is and I really called people out on it today, was the Garrett Cole thing. Okay. A premier pitcher in the game. He dodged a bullet right now. I mean, he's got some nerve damage in the elbow, but he doesn't need surgery. For the player, I'm really glad for him because, you hate to see a talent go down, right? He means a lot to the game. Plus, you want to pitch against the Red Sox, so that Rafi embarrasses him. All right. I mean, let's face it. But I couldn't believe some of the nonsense that was coming out there, and people like, jumping up and down. Oh, he's hurt. Yeah, be happy that the Yankees don't have him in their rotation for a couple of months. That's cool. I mean, it hurts, but don't trash the player. I mean, injuries are part of the game, and you don't want to see a good athlete go down. He's not like, back in the early days of baseball, Ty Cobb, that everybody hated him because he sharpened his cleats and tried to cut everybody up, and he was a maniac. If you want to be happy if somebody got hurt, and I'm not even promoting this, but Red Sox fans, would probably dance if Manny Machado got beat up a little bit. But I'm not advocating that, but I understand the sensitivity there. But yeah, come on, people, smarten up. I mean, don't bet it, especially a good player like him. So.
Yeah, Pat, you read his article. So what's really stood out there for you overall?
No, I mean, so to that point there, as the emotion of sport, takes over a lot of times in the heat of the moment. But at the end of the day, you've got to think these are human beings. This is somebody's son. This is somebody's dad. This is a person that out of all of the bad people doing really bad things, he's not comparatively doing really bad things. He pitches for a disgusting organization, and that's fine. But he's not out there clubbing baby seals. So yeah, let's cool it. You can be ecstatic. You can be ecstatic that he's not a weapon or a tool that the Yankees can use in their march to buy another World Series that's going to fail again this year. You could absolutely be thrilled for that. Much the same way we'd be thrilled if he just had like a 7.8 ERA. Like you can absolutely root for him to perform poorly or anything like that, but to actually wish and to mean harm to so I get it. We all hope, as somebody's running home to cross home plate to win the game. There, you might even shout out like break. I really hope he breaks his leg and can't. But at the end of the day, you don't mean that. You don't really want to see, or you shouldn't really want to see anybody actually get physically injured for any period of time. So yeah, it's one of those. Let's put it in perspective, and if. Maybe let's think before you tweet or act. I don't. Is that the right verbiage now for tweeting? Even though now it's X. Are you still tweeting? Maybe let's think before you comment just a little bit. Take a breath, and buying a ticket does not give you license to say whatever the hell garbage you want. It just doesn't. I'm sorry if you feel entitled to say whatever or act whatever because this is a public figure or you bought a ticket or bought season tickets. I don't really care. It doesn't give you a right to say whatever the hell you want and be a bad person. You are now the bad person, not this guy that you are now attacking. So I agree. And I think that was a great thing to lead off as we go into this, season, trying to kind of keep in mind, hey, in the heat of the moment, I get it. Things get said. I'm a victim of it too. But at the end of the day, to take time and effort and energy to actually wish ill on another player just because they play for another team is ridiculous and is the worst kind of fan.
Yeah. DC, what did you take away from George's article? What was one thing that you took away from it?
Well, first off, is this the first time Pat's been on Pesky?
Yeah.
Because the next point is we need to get him on more often. I've been obviously was late a little bit today, had some personal stuff going on, but I've been listening. Dude, you killed it. So hopefully you come back on. Second,
happy to be here.
Whoever's saying that shit, which I've seen on Twitter, is a bunch of jabronis. They shouldn't be, like you said, it's all, we're all people. They're humans too. They live their own lives. But to answer your question, I think it just nailed home that George and I can't write like George, but we think alike. Everything that he wrote, I agreed with. Obviously, I caught the tail end of you guys talking about the rotation. I think Houck and Whitlock are going to be locked in. And then hopefully we manifest Rafaela, like you mentioned, being the starting center fielder, especially with Russ Snyder going down. But excellent article, dude. Kill it every time.
Yeah. George, I want to say the biggest thing that came out to me, which, you put it on paper, was the Dylan Cease trade.
Oh, yeah.
So,
that was going to be my next thing, yeah.
that on paper, George, just showed you why the Red Sox weren't in on Cease. To give up 3 of their top 10 in their pipeline. And
their pitches, too. So, I mean, what does that say?
So, for us to give up our top 10 pitchers, that's what, 2? That's Wilkerman Gonzalez and Dickie Fitz. So
Dickie Fitz.
That's the only 2 that's inside our top 10. So, and then another thing, isn't this, George, the first time in I don't know how many years that the Celtics actually get to play on St. Patrick's Day at home?
I think so. I didn't think to look that up, but yeah.
The Bruins usually get to have the home game. Schedule obviously didn't work out, so I don't know for the Celtics. I don't know how long it's been since they were able to do that, but at least in recent, and I want to say like maybe the last 10, 15 years, I think it's always been a Celtics or a Bruins home game. Excuse me.
I want to say at some point, didn't they used to do the afternoon night thing?
Yeah, they used to. Yeah.
We have to rip everything down and do it again. I remember that went on for a few years, and quite frankly, it's kind of weird that they don't.
It was a thing. It was Causeway Day, and you'd buy the tickets as a package. You get to go to both. You get to watch as the team changed it from one to the other. I've been to a couple of those, and absolutely, it was the coolest thing. Getting to see just how they transitioned from one to the other, and then you always got 2 great games. I don't know why they got away from it, but obviously they did. But I'm excited to watch the Seas tonight. Clinch the playoff spot, which was huge, and now I think you just got to build some load management in there and try and figure out how the hell you're going to stop Denver.
Yeah. So George, I'll let you give the final thoughts for your article before we wrap things up.
Well, just an additional point on the Cease trade. AJ Preller can never be confused with our previous head of baseball operations. You look at what he's done. He loses Blake Snell. He brings in Cease at a high price. He trades Juan Soto so he can get a bunch of prospects. He's trading for his job. There's been a lot of reports that he's, with the owner dying and whatever, that there's some dysfunction in the back office. Okay. At the rate he's going and he's willing to be a wheeler dealer, if when the A's finally do move to Las Vegas, sign him on as GM, he'd fit right in Vegas. I mean, good God. But you got to appreciate the fact that he's got him, and he's not afraid. So, yeah, I stick by the fact that it's a hell of a price to pay for a guy you're only going to have at best for 2 years, and if they don't have a good team, at the trade deadline in 25, he's someplace else. And then
that was my thinking. I was reading that, and you were talking about the price, and I had recognized that the price was steep, but I guess I didn't realize quite how steep. And then so you start looking at it. If you're going to pay that level of price, you almost need to, or the way I would be, GMing would be, that would be the final piece in a championship.
Yes.
Team.
That's a deadline move.
They just traded and sold off their championship team. Like, they just dismantled that team. So to me, that had signaled a San Diego rebuild almost of like, hey, all right, we got a little out of control with the contracts, the money we spent. All right, we took a swing We went for the king. We didn't make it. And now we got to rebuild. And this flies in the face of that entirely. If you're going to bring in a Cease at that price, you don't get rid of Juan Soto. You don't make the moves that they made earlier in the offseason. And I get it. He caught a lot of flack for those moves and might be feeling like I've got to do something or the fans are going to start, literally picketing my driveway. I'm not going to be able to get to the office. But this was a desperation move that, in my view, I know you said he's trading for his job. I think he just lost his job with this. He just doesn't know it yet. I don't think there's any way this is a competitive team. And then they're going to look around and they're going to say, we don't have anybody coming up to help because we gave them all away. So I think I think he got fleeced. I think he got desperate, and I think he went to he gambled desperate, or he gambled with his emotions over his head again. And I think that is going to cost him his job. And it might be one of those, you don't get another job at that level after this level of butchery, in my view. Not saying I'm not advocating for anyone to get fired, just like I'm not advocating for anybody to get injured. But this is a weird decision-making process that's gone on in San Diego all off season, to be frank.
Yeah, stockpiling never works. Okay?
No, it doesn't.
We've
proven that out. It's been borne out. You don't do that.
Yeah.
You do what Los Angeles is doing right now, and just go all in as often as you possibly can. If you're going to tell me that, hey, they're stockpiling for year 2 of this Cease thing, okay, but I still don't think you get rid of Soto if you think you can win. You think you can build a championship contender, you don't get rid of Juan Soto.
Yeah.
No. So, well, guys, we're going to sit there and wrap things up here in the Pesky Podcast. So, for Pat, for the OG George Sutherland, for DC, and for myself, make sure you check us out over on our YouTube page, Spotify, iTunes. This will be dropping tonight. Make sure you head on over to Pundit to the Pesky Poll, which, George, I still think is how ironic you named it that, as we named our podcast this, and we're not even working together.
That's the line, baby. That's just kind of the weirdest thing about all this.
So, but guys, check us out next time on the Pesky Podcast.